Lesaka's turnaround efforts in its consumer division have continued to bear fruit. During the full-year period, the group delivered an 11% rise in revenue, and it's managed to narrow its loss by 48% to 17.4 million rand from 326 million rand. We're now joined in studio by Lesaka's Southern Africa CEO Lincoln Mali. Thank you so much for your time, Lincoln. Let's actually start there with that word.
Yes.
It was a turnaround year with significant growth in your key financial metrics. Just talk to us about what a ride this year has been for Lesaka.
I'd like to maybe start it 3 years back.
Yes.
When I walked into the then Net One.
Yeah.
People were surprised as to why I would leave a large corporate and go to a company that was not profitable, that was burning cash, burning circa 500 million rands of cash. But for me, there was a reason. It was about financial inclusion.
Yes.
How could we take an organization that was in trouble and turn it for good? And today, very humbled by the results, very pleased with what our teams have achieved. We've been able to turn an operating loss of 275 million rands and turn it into an operating income of 67 million rands.
Yeah.
And that for us has been amazing. We've been able to register group adjusted EBITDA for this year, a rise of 55% to about 691 million rands. So it's really been a good turnaround, and that's been very, very pleasing.
Yeah. Well, talking about burning cash, because obviously one of the things that you've had to do was cut on costs, and particularly looking at the consumer division. Would you say that the efficiency gains, the efficiency story in that consumer division is at optimal levels and on a sustainable path?
Yes. When we started back, we had to change the entire business model, because the business model was a cash dispensing business, giving grants out to social grant beneficiaries.
Yes.
We had to turn it into a sales and service organization that's oriented towards a customer, to train all of our staff to treat every customer as a customer to attract and a customer to retain.
So not just receiving grants.
Not just receiving
Okay.
grants. See people as customers. See them, understand them, feel them, and then sell products to them. So in those first 2 years, we took a lot of costs, circa 500 million rands of costs. But what has been happening over the last 2 years is that it's been cost reduction and revenue growth.
Okay.
So now the engines within that consumer business are doing well. So we've been able to grow our account base by 21% year on year. We've been able to grow our lending by 32% year on year. We've been able to grow our insurance by 31% year on year. So you can see that there's a revenue story as well. But now it's built on a sustainable cost base, which is now a cost base that we can work with. We're now reinvesting in the business. We're hiring more people, we're building more branches, we're investing in the technology at the back of the work that we did on that first 2 years.
It's quite pleasing to see this revenue and sales growth in that area, particularly in the constrained economic environment. And I actually want to talk, because there's also a lot of competition in that area for the attention of the grant recipients.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, how is it looking in terms of your market share gains? Do you think, has competition been tight in this kind of environment, or do you think that this is maybe a ripe setting for Lesaka to actually make gains, inroads in that area?
Firstly, one of the revolutions which I was so happy to be part of was to change the mindset that grant recipients must be paid outside the payments system.
Okay.
Right? Imagine all of us if they said at month end, we'll meet you at the car park and we'll pay you cash.
Yeah.
And our view was all customers must participate in the payments environment. So now competition opened up. Every bank now started going after those customers, and that was
It's all in the ecosystem.
Absolutely. Now everybody was competing. So we now have 11% market share. The largest player, which is also the largest bank in the country, has about 29% market share,
Yeah.
and all the other banks have got single digits market share. So we've been able to grow market share in that environment. We're the second fastest growing in that environment with that other dominant player.
Okay.
And that's pleasing because now we're competing for social grant recipients. They are being treated as customers. They have to be won over and retained. And that for me is very, very pleasing.
Let's go into the merchant division. And what I've noticed there is that Lesaka is basically on an effort to grow through synergies within the business. And one example of that is with the link between Kazang and Touch Sides. On what level have you achieved that symbiosis? Just maybe there between Kazang and Touch Sides, and maybe in the broader business as well.
Yes. So let me start with, if I look at our business, in the Kazang business, our VAS business has grown by 43%. There's lots happening in that market. We look at our card acceptance has grown by, circa 30%.
Yeah.
So that growth engine is there. But the acquisition of Touch Sides is adding something extra.
Okay.
So they give us about 10,000 new POS devices in the licensed liquor vertical. We now have a new vertical we can go and contest, and that is also part of the micro merchant division. But where the exciting thing is that Touch Sides is a data and analytics business. So they give a tavern owner the ability to see their stock, inventory, manage their pricing and all of that. All real-time data that's very good to run a business. But it also gives us the eyes and ears into what's happening in the environment. So FMCG companies are coming now to us to say, you've got real data. How can we use this data for our own efforts? But also we are using that data now in the other 90,000 spaza shops that Kazang has. So we see a very dynamic working together. So there's a tech piece where the terminals that were in Touch Sides will now be part of Kazang, but the data piece will remain with Touch Sides. And this is one of the most exciting acquisitions we've made. Great data scientists there, data engineers who can see real time what's happening in the informal market.
Lincoln, we could talk for 30 more minutes because there's still also the acquisition that should be finalized soon for Adumo, and also looking at the guidance that you've given us for 2025. But we'll get to that when you have your next results out. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
That was Lincoln Mali, CEO of Lesaka Technology Southern Africa.